So I'm here with my brother.
Hey guys, how's it going?
This is Sam, and we're doing a special video today. He decided to join me, he was kind enough to join me. We're talking about our most under and overrated movies of 2015. And so yeah, because we were just talking about some of the things that we liked, some things we didn't like. So the first one that I wanted to talk about that I think was overrated is Bridge of Spies. And I don't think this is a horrible movie. It's fine, but I don't think it's Best Picture worthy.
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of two conventional movies put into one. The first half is a conventional courtroom drama, and the second half is a conventional diplomatic kind of movie. Tom Hanks is good in it, of course, like it always is, but there's a lot of plot points that kind of picked up and then dropped, and then you never hear from him again. Like when his family gets attacked and you never hear anything about that again. Like his assistant kind of wanting to date his daughter at the beginning, which is weird, and then that's never talked about again. Or there's a lot of things like that, and people were like crazy about Mark Rylance's performance in that movie, and he won the Oscar and everything, and I think he's fine, but I felt like he was kind of one note. He was always sort of the same the whole movie.
Right. Yeah, I'd probably agree with you on most things. I just thought it was kind of dry, kind of boring in a lot of elements, and just didn't enjoy it too much.
Yeah, me too.
My first overrated movie of 2015, I'm going to say Age of Ultron. Coming off the high of, the awesome Avengers movie, everyone was expecting just another grand slam, and it ended up kind of, to me, being more of a movie setting up other movies than actually being a good movie in itself. And it was kind of disappointing to me. Kind of felt very cookie cutter. Like, I think people really hated X-Men Apocalypse this year, but in a lot of ways it was very similar to me, with like kind of a bad guy CGI mess of a ending and just mindless bad guys. So
yeah, I mean, I've definitely come down on that movie quite a bit from when I first saw it. I did appreciate sort of those little glimpses we got into the backstories of the different characters, particularly Natasha, and finding out about her sterilization. Like, that was really intense, I thought. And I thought, like, the party scene was really fun, and I liked James Spader as the voice of Ultron, and the idea that Tony had kind of created Ultron, that this was sort of part of Tony, made him a little bit more interesting than, say, Apocalypse, who was just sort of, there was no tie to any of the X-Men, really.
Right.
And second overrated pick is The Revenant. And this was a movie that is beautiful. It's stunning to look at, and I'm glad that I saw it. I gave it a B. It's not like I hated it, but I just felt like the big pitch Oscar season was, look how hard it was to make. And that's not necessarily mean it's a good movie. Like, just because something's hard to make. And, and the fact that Leonardo DiCaprio had been nominated so many times, but I felt like it was so repetitive. It was like, these people are jerks. These people are jerks. These people are jerks, and it's really cold outside. These people are jerks, and it's really cold outside. Like, by the end, I was just kind of like, ugh. And I was just like, we get it. I understand.
I think the only really, like, bad jerk character is
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
But honest, I disagree with you. I think it was just emotionally impactful. I think it was super well directed. I think that being hard to make is part of what gave the actors, made the actors give such great performances. I think that it was one of the most visually impressive movies I've ever seen from a lighting and set perspective.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. There is no lighting. That's the impressive thing about it.
There was only natural lighting, which was incredible. So I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I don't think it's really underrated. But so my second on the list is 2015's The Gift. I did not like this movie very much. I thought it was boring. I did not think it was scary. And I thought, in a large part, if you've seen the South Korean movie Old Boy, it really copied most of the main plot points from that movie. The movie has like 93% Rotten Tomatoes, which I think is totally undeserved. I didn't believe the performances in it very much. I didn't like the twist at the end. It felt predictable after seeing what I just saw, and I just didn't care for it very much.
See, I saw The Gift. I never reviewed it on this channel because it's one of those ones that I thought that it did what it was trying to do very well, but I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
So it was hard for me to like give a valid critique of, because it really did scare me, because I particularly, like, my hot button is anything involving stalking or rape. And so particularly with what happens to
Stalking
the
and
woman.
rape.
Like, yeah, that was really, I thought, scary. And
I thought the wife had the most believable performance. I guess my biggest problem was that I didn't believe Jason Bateman's performance.
oh,
really.
interesting.
I mean, I guess I've just seen him in too many other things, because he always usually plays
You
the
were
same
always sort of
role.
suspect of him from the beginning.
Right, and I don't know, I can't remember the actor's name who plays the stalker.
Joel Edgerton's
Joel
director.
Edgerton. Yeah, I didn't believe his performance as the
Oh.
nerd, beat up guy. Like, I did not believe that for a second for some.
For my next pick, I'm also going the horror route, and I pick The Visit. Mr. M. Night Shyamalan, who I'm not a fan of. I've really only liked one of his movies, and I feel like this was a movie that a lot of people gave a pass to because it was decent from Shyamalan. That people were like, oh, he's back, and I'm like, oh, give me a break. I think that found footage movies aren't my favorite to begin with, and I felt like it was completely unbelievable that this couple would allow this filming to be made. You're sort of, I'm not buying it, and as soon as I heard that, oh, they're volunteers for the hospital, and the hospital people are coming around, I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, Shyamalanian, he couldn't help himself, you gotta have this big twist. And I just, it's kind of gross, and
it's super gross, yeah.
I know, I just felt like everybody was like, oh, it's so amazing, he's back, and I'm like...
Yeah, I guess I thought it was going to be worse than it ended up being. I
think everybody thought that.
I thought that the twist was, there's a part in the movie where the grandma talks about little monsters in a well or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I thought they were going to make it some alien thing.
Oh.
I thought the twist was going to be more severe than it was. That's where my mind was leaping to, because you've gotten used to these M. Night Shyamalan movies,
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, it's going to be some weird alien thing, like it's going to be so stupid, but it ended up being more tame, and I was like, okay, like I didn't see that coming, but I should have.
Well, and the whole idea that like this mother that's been estranged from her parents is going to let her kids go without even like a picture, without even like any idea of who they are, that seemed pretty ridiculous.
Third on the list, people are probably going to disagree with me on this one, but it's The Martian. I by no means do I think this is a bad movie. I just don't think that it was as good as people say it is. I think it's...
We saw it together,
yeah,
which is interesting.
It's funny, but in a large part, I just, like, it's an average movie to me. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't spectacular. I'm not going to buy the Blu-ray and, like, watch it over and over again. I just thought it was okay.
I think the thing with The Martian that a lot of us who have read the book...
Yeah, I haven't read the book.
I think that makes a big difference in this case because I already knew so much about the character and I was already so invested in the character that, like, I think maybe we brought all of that kind of with us so it feels sort of more fleshed out and more, like, better. What I really liked about The Martian was that I just feel like so many movies would have made him like an alcoholic or would have made him like... He was just so likable, and and you wanted to just like cheer him on. You wanted him to be. It was like, and so that's kind of why I liked it. But I totally see that like it's not like it does anything particularly new or different like The Revenant did, And so I can kind of see, but it's just kind of movie that you just wanted to cheer at the end and be like, yay! Those are overrated, and so our underrated we're going to talk about now, and
we're just doing top 2 underrated.
Yeah, we're just going to do top 2. My top underrated film of 2015 is called The Testament of Youth. And this is based on a memoir by this woman in after World War I. She wrote it after World War I about her experiences in the war. Okay. And it starts out, it has Alicia Vikander in it, and she's excellent. She's as good as she is in, I haven't seen The Danish Girl, but she's as good as she is in Ex Machina. It's totally different, like period piece.
Right.
Anyway, and it starts out with her brother, and like 3 of her friends. And she's actually like really gung-ho, like go defend your country kind of a thing for World War I. And I feel like World War I, like we don't know that much about it. She decides to become a nurse. Okay. And she ends up actually being a nurse for the prisoners of war for the Germans. And so she actually like treats these people, she sees them, so when she hears people saying like the Germans are horrible people and it's kind of a thing, at home she's like, no, actually actually served them. I actually tended to their wounds like they're human too.
I think it was underrated.
It didn't get a ton of release. It wasn't in a ton of theaters. It didn't have, because at the time Leash still wasn't like a big name. So I think if it had like a Brad Pitt or somebody like that, then it would have gotten more attention. Or if it had been a big name director like a Spielberg or a Nolan or something like that, then it would have gotten a better name. But it was beautifully made. It's very sad. It's always hard to sort of sell a movie like that, which isn't ice cream and roses, and it is pretty sad. But it just didn't get all the, it's just an indie. It just didn't get that many theaters. Because it has a pretty good, I think, Rotten Tomatoes score. I think it's in the 80s or 90s. And so people who did see it, I think, liked it. But it's just a question of getting it out there.
Right.
So.
My first underrated movie of 2015, again, it did well critically. And it was actually praised in a lot of ways, but it's The Big Short. And I think that even more people should have seen this movie. It's one of my favorite movies, definitely in my top 5 of 2015. I think it was just awesome. I watched it this week. I think it's incredible performances across the board. It's got a super interesting, relatable, real world story that everyone should know.
I wonder if the R rating maybe hurt it a little bit, but I'm surprised it didn't do even better when you've got Brad Pitt, you've got Ryan Gosling, you've got Steve Carell, you've got a great cast. And I don't know, maybe some people were just intimidated by
the subject matter
and it sounded boring, but it's really not.
See, that's why I think a PG-13 rating wouldn't have helped it. Because I think the people going to see it are mature enough and like old enough to handle the R rating. And,
And I think that Steve Carell is so good in that movie.
Yeah, he really is awesome in it.
Because just to see him like just lose faith in humanity bit by bit is really devastating. Next most underrated of 2015 I think is The Good Dinosaur, because The Good Dinosaur was compared to Inside Out, and Inside Out was the better movie. I'm not going to say it's not, but I think that they're really different. And one is a clever sort of look into the sort of mind of this character. This is more of sort of a classic kind of adventure, and it reminded me of the old school Disney movies they used to get with your Dumbos and your Bambis and that kind of thing, where it's sort of leisurely paced and it's all about or like Pinocchio, where Pinocchio it's meant to sort of Pinocchio's supposed to learn how to be honest. That's the whole point, and then he gets turned into a boy. Here, Arlo is trying to overcome his fear. And so you see him on this journey and kind of growing up. And the relationship of Arlo and Spot reminded me a lot of Timothy Q. Mouse and Dumbo. And so I just felt like it had sort of these old-fashioned sensibilities. And I liked the vocal performances. I liked sort of the homages to the Western. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's like The Lion King. But I feel like then you have to discount most movies that people love that are very similar to other movies. Even like The Dark Knight has a lot of Heat and other crime dramas in there. And so if you're gonna say that The Good Dinosaur is bad because it has elements of The Lion King in it, then The Lion King itself has elements of Hamlet in it. So does that I feel
everything bases from something else in reality.
And I get it. I get some of the critiques of it, but I just didn't. I heard people say that it was like worse than Cars 2, and even though I see some value in Cars 2, and I don't think it's like horrible, but I think that's crazy. I think The Good Dinosaur is way better than Cars 2.
My number 2 is gonna be SpongeBob. The SpongeBob movie number 2.
Yeah.
Out of water. Sponge out of water. I thought this movie was really sad the way they marketed it.
Yeah.
It's marketed as the entire movie's them out of water with superhero powers, but in reality, most of the 80-minute runtime is actually 2D animation, and it's really funny.
It's really funny.
Like, if I remember seeing the first one as a kid and just absolutely loving it, and this one I thought it was funny too, and I just think that nobody saw it. It kind of flew under everyone's radar, even though it shouldn't have. I think if they had more confidence in making a 2D animated movie and putting it out there, people would have seen it. I think, because people still remember how funny the first SpongeBob movie was. Because
even, it had like a healthy, I think, opening weekend and stuff, so if they just had like a little bit more, I think, confidence in it, I think it would have done even better.
Right.
And it was very funny and totally bizarre, totally out there, totally
It was awesome.
insane.
I thought,
And yeah, I laughed a lot. I thought it was good, and it was really refreshing to see something 2D animation. And yeah, that the live action stuff, the CG, that's like 10 minutes of the movie.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It's almost nothing. I think the worst part of the movie is their attempt to replace Patchy the Pirate, if you're a SpongeBob fan.
Yeah.
But he's not very good in the movie, their replacement. But other than that, the stuff that happens in Bikini Bottom is super funny. I mean, it's kind of a throwback to my childhood watching SpongeBob, and they kind of modernized the jokes and made it relevant. I just thought.
Well, I really liked too the time machine. That was hilarious.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
That was
Plankton
so
and
funny.
SpongeBob team up in the movie, and it's just super funny.
And they go to the Christopher Walken crazy dolphin.
Yeah, Dolphin
thing.
Lord.
That was really
It kind of reminded
funny.
me of after seeing Gods of Egypt.
Oh.
It's kind of like the space dolphin that protects us all, you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't for everybody, I guess, but I
Yeah.
thought it was awesome. And you should check it out.
So that's our over-under for 2015. So it'll be interesting to see what we think for 2016 once it gets done.
To wait for Star Wars.
Yeah, for Rogue One. So, all right. Well, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
It was nice.
Okay.